A new disease. Eat with your mouth closed. And these eyes. Or those. It's all coming up on the Thanksgiving edition of the Use Your Head podcast. Happy Thanksgiving. Gobble, gobble. This is John McClain. This is the Use Your Head podcast, the Thanksgiving edition. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Can you tell that I love Thanksgiving? I'm going to talk about that later in the show. In fact, I'm going to tell you about something very powerful that might just change your life at the end of today's half hour together on the show, where we work together to resist others who want to tell us what to think. We have the right to think for ourselves. We have the ability. We were created as intelligent beings, able to reason things out ourselves, to look at the facts or look at what we're given and think for ourselves. Does this make sense, regardless of what anyone who labels themselves as an expert might say? This is what this podcast is about. We pick a few topics every week and we look at them when we use our heads together. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. And if you would do me a quick favor, on your platform, whatever platform you listen to the show on, and there are many, if you would leave us a rating, and it may be, you may even have time to not have time to type anything. So just, click some stars and, write down, I like it, or it's okay, or meh, or something. That helps these computers, behind the scenes, kind of promote us out and suggest us to others and helps us grow. And that's always a good thing, because I think the world would be a better place if more people use their heads. I mean, amen. So anyway, lots of good stuff to get to today. So without further ado, here is topic number one. A new disease. It seems like we're always hearing about new diseases, whether it's the recent pandemic, or there's always some new disorder, some new disease. Now, I'm going to start out this by stating the obvious. I am not a medical professional. I have a modicum of first aid training from, Boy Scouts and other, things. I can know how to fix a cut. And I know what's important not to get infected and all that, but I'm not a doctor. And so, I speak as a layperson using my layperson head. Found a story at health.com written by Madeline Burry. And this was medically reviewed by Michael Mena, D.O. So this is a medically reviewed article. Let's read it. The article is entitled, What to Know About Holiday Heart Syndrome. Have you heard about this? Well, it's a thing. Here's what the article says. It's possible you could experience holiday heart syndrome during parties and family gatherings around the holiday season. Holiday heart syndrome refers to a phenomenon in which binge drinking causes heart palpitations or arrhythmia, or an irregular heart rhythm. Binge drinking is 4 or more drinks within 2 hours for women, or 5 or more drinks for men. Atrial fibrillation, AFib, is a common type of arrhythmia that causes holiday heart syndrome. It causes the heart to beat irregularly, or too slowly, or too quickly. What is holiday heart syndrome? Well, the term holiday heart syndrome dates back to the 1970s. A healthcare provider coined it to describe the volume of otherwise healthy people showing up around holidays with arrhythmia after binge drinking. The phenomenon isn't restricted to festive occasions despite its name. Holiday heart syndrome could be common anytime an individual uses alcohol excessively, said Regina Drews, MD, founder and chief executive officer of Holistic Heart Centers. They told health.com. All right, we're going to stop right there and use our heads. All right, I said this was a new disease, and yes, the article does say, well, this term's been around from the 70s. I've never heard it. And since this is my show, it's new to me. So I should have probably said new to me disease. Holiday heart syndrome. All right. Here's something else. When I use my head, here's something else new. Self-discipline. All right, how about the idea of not being sloppy drunk during the holidays? I mean, is it that difficult? I mean, people always laugh about, what Jimmy Fallon had that song a few years ago, Drunk on Christmas, I'm going to drink all day because my family's coming over and they're insane. We laugh about stuff that, like that, yuck, yuck, yuck. But as it turns out, it's apparently not a joke. It actually happens. If that's you, if you have that family, how about some self-discipline? I mean, have we lost all sense of virtue? I don't understand this idea of binging. And I know that it's being promoted left and right. I mean, how many times do you turn on the TV and you hear a new binge-worthy show is coming on streaming service, or you're somebody at work says, "What are you going to do tonight?" "Oh, I'm going to binge on Yellowstone this weekend." Like binging is something good or cool or healthy? No, binging is bad. Binging on anything is bad. All right, binging is a lack of prudence. It's a lack of discipline. It's a lack of virtue. And I think the world has enough virtue lack right now. Anytime someone says they're going to binge on something, whether it's a TV show or if they're going to go out and get loaded, "Yeah, I'm going to binge on beer." It's pathetic. It's pathetic. It's not a way to live. And so now we have this holiday heart syndrome where people are showing up at the ER, with palpitations. "Well, how many martinis have you had?" "Well, I've had 6 in the past 2 hours. Can't imagine what might be wrong with my body." Here's the problem, though. And look, getting drunk during the holidays is nothing new. But what bothers me is now that we have a name for this, apparently we've had it since the 70s. Is this going to be some sort of condition now? Or oh no, you can't, you got to be nice to this person. They need special privileges and benefits because they have holiday heart syndrome. I don't know. Look, binging on anything is not cool. It is not good. It is not healthy. And I would argue it is no way to celebrate the holidays. I mean, have we forgotten what it's all about? What about peace on earth? Not instead of, 5th of brandy. I don't understand this whole idea. So anyway, binging bad. Maybe you, if you have some virtue and refuse to binge on booze this holiday, can avoid holiday heart syndrome and an embarrassing trip to the ER. You're right smack dab in the middle of the show that teaches us that it's better to use our own heads than to have someone use theirs for us. This is the Use Your Head podcast. My name's John McLean. I'm grateful, thankful, you might say, for you tuning into this half hour. Topic number 2, eat with your mouth closed. Well, how does that work? You can't eat with your mouth closed. Well, I guess if you had an IV in, you could eat with your mouth closed. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is this story. It's the same kind of thing in a way. And this is the Thanksgiving edition of the show. So we're talking about the holidays. And this is from NBC Bay Area. So San Francisco, Oakland, Bay Area out in California. This is a staff-written article, probably because no one wants to put their name on it. Here's what it says. Turkey and a side of politics. How to deal with politics this Thanksgiving. Article says this. With Thanksgiving this week, many families across a divided country are preparing to gather with loved ones who might be at odds over the results of the presidential election. However, there are some steps you can take to avoid a contentious gathering. Mike Robbins, author of the book We're All in This Together, said that one of the first steps is to set some intentional boundaries with your family when it comes to discussing politics. The first thing we got to do is just have a plan as we go in. Do we want to talk about politics? Do we not do it? We don't have to do it, Robbins said. This sets some intentions and boundaries to try and set it up so Thanksgiving can be as positive as possible for everybody. Regardless of where people land on the political spectrum, Roberts has seen that people are feeling nervous to gather with loved ones because of political tension. What can help with these feelings of anxiety is to be honest and authentic about these emotions to people on the other side of the political spectrum, Robbins said. Sometimes if we're just willing to listen, we can learn, said Robbins. End of article. All right, let's use our heads here. As a side note, I've also seen some little sidebar notes of families that are calling off holiday gatherings because they're scared of conflict, or they've already had the conflict on the phone, or on social media. Lord help us. And they're like, you know what? Forget it. Your Thanksgiving's canceled. I don't want to eat turkey with you. You are a turkey. It's terrible. Using my head, look, we're polarized. Okay, that's happened, and it's sad. We have a real lack of unity in our country. This is not new, by the way. If you're a student of American history, people used to shoot each other over politics in the early days of our republic. So it doesn't excuse behavior today, but it's not new. People are passionate about their politics. And so, this is not a novel thing. But avoiding political discourse, which we often do, we don't even talk about politics in our family, which Robbins in his book talks about, look, this is one good idea. If you think there's going to be conflict, you should set the ground rules. Look, no politics today. It's all about football and turkey. And maybe we'll talk about what we're thankful for, as long as it's not politics or voting. That's one thing you can do. But when I use my head, I think that's part of the problem. And here's what I mean. When we avoid political discourse of any kind, it makes it worse. Because what happens, we do that enough, we forget how to debate without hate. Now, if you disagree with someone, and pick an issue, pick one of the big hot button issues from this past election cycle. If you dare disagree with someone or argue with someone, you hate them. What do you mean you're against that? Well, I don't understand why you hate me. Why do you hate? I don't hate. I just disagree. When we don't discuss, when we avoid it to try to keep harmony around the table, then we lose the ability to share with one another. I mean, the last quote in this article from this author, Robbins, sometimes if we're just willing to listen, we can learn. Well, here's the thing. If you're not discussing, there's nothing to listen to. And so I think as this polarization has deepened and become at the forefront where, people are beating each other up and slashing each other's tires and, rioting, all this awful stuff that's happening over politics and calling each other vile names. It's within our families. Can we not discuss? Is there not enough love to carry the day? I don't agree 100% politically with some of the people in my family. For the most part, in all honesty, I do. But there are some folks in my family that have different ideas. I love them anyway. Let's talk it over. And let's have Thanksgiving. I think avoiding we lose our ability to discuss in love. All right? There is a difference between debate and hate. There should be. It seems like in the public square, there isn't anymore. And I think one of the key reasons why, other than we have a mainstream media that dumps fuel on the fire at a breakneck pace because they make money off conflict, I think that we have forgotten how to have civil discourse. Instead, it's considered hate to disagree. If you just can't seem to discuss issues with a loved one, whether it's at Thanksgiving or on the phone or on the social medias or whatever, I would suggest that it has nothing to do with politics. I mean, if it turns into a bitter fight every time, I would suggest that politics is not to blame. Perhaps you should work on your relationship. I mean, if you have a cousin, let's say, for example, that you only see on holidays, we all have those, right? And maybe that cousin's on the other side, they're blue when you're red or they're red when you're blue or whatever. And you can't discuss issues and wrestle with issues without wrestling with each other physically. Maybe you ought to work on that relationship. I don't think the politics are the problem, because here's the thing. We've always had differences in politics. I mean, I grew up in the 1980s when Ronald Reagan was the president of the United States. He had, there was a gentleman named Tip O'Neill, and you may remember Tip if you're my age. Tip was the Speaker of the House, Democrat. And he and Reagan swiped at each other in public constantly, joked about it, this guy, and it's come out later that in the evening, when the cameras were off and when they were out of the office, they'd go out for a drink together. They were actually friends, casually, because they had enough respect for each other to discuss the issues, agree to disagree, try to convince the other of their error and bring them along, usually failing. But what they weren't doing was pulling out switchblades out of their boots or burning each other's cars. They were able to separate relationship from the issues. And when we don't discuss things and we don't honor the relationship with our loved ones and our friends, or even our neighbors, people that we see, and instead decide that, well, it's going to be violence then because they hate me, because they disagree with me, we got a problem. And now people are actually talking about not going to Thanksgiving because so-and-so voted for so-and-so, and that's not who I voted for. So to heck with them. This is bad. This is bad. Maybe a great way to spend the holidays, whether it's Thanksgiving or Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever, maybe the best way to spend it is to work on our relationships a little bit and try to separate those from the political opinions and choices that we make. That's what comes out when I use my head. Topic number 3. This one is from the El Weirdo file. These eyes. Or those. You remember that song from the Guess Who? These eyes. Great song. That's what made me think of this title. This is an article from futurism.com, and they're kind of known for kind of off-the-wall, out-there stories, which is kind of fun. It's fun to read stuff you don't see everywhere else, and so I stop by there periodically. And in their Neoscope column, I find this. This article, by the way, is written by Victor Tangeman. My eyes are... I'm having a hard time focusing. I've got floaters. Do you have those in your eyes? It's terrible. Hold on. Yeah, Victor Tangerman. And here's the title of the article. People are getting their eyeballs tattooed. And then he writes a subline under it. This is nuts. Yes, Victor, it is. Here's the article. I'm not making this up. An unusual cosmetic surgery procedure that involves permanently changing the color of your eyes using tattoos is soaring in popularity. As the Wall Street Journal reports, experts are warning that the procedure, called keratopigmentation or corneal tattooing, could leave lasting damage. Time out. Really? You're going to inject ink in some... Okay. Time in. The article continues. The procedure involves cutting a donut-like tunnel into the cornea of the eye. The surgeon then widens this tunnel and fills it with a special dye that immediately and permanently changes the color of the eye. Conventionally, the procedure has been used to correct a cosmetic disfigurement from an injury or disease, as The Guardian reports. For some patients, the procedure can reduce glare following corneal damage. Okay, time out. So reading that, what I see the author telling me is that this procedure was created as a medical thing. You've had an accident, we can use this, to help, fix an injury. Okay, so it's cool that they came up with this as a way to help people who have been wounded. Not created for cosmetic purposes. That's the note there. Article continues, time in. But as the Wall Street Journal reports, European doctors began injecting eyes for solely cosmetic reasons in the 2010s. I see it as an enhancement, New Jersey resident Jason Jimenez, who underwent the procedure, told the paper. People get their teeth done, they get implants and Botox. If it's something that can make you happier, make you look better, then why not? Time out. Jason, if risking your eyesight so that you can, quote, be happier with different color eyes, and that's enough of a reason to take that, I just don't understand people. All right, time in. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has yet to approve keratopigmentation as a procedure in the United States, but that hasn't stopped surgeons from finding workarounds. Some are using lasers designed for vision correction off-label and buying dyes from companies overseas where they're certified, the Wall Street Journal reports. Wow, what could go wrong? Article goes on. Earlier this year, the American Academy of Ophthalmology, AAO, issued a public warning on the risks of eye color changing surgeries, including, quote, damage to the cornea that can lead to cloudiness and leakage of the dye into the eye, end quote. Other patients have reported an increased sensitivity to light, according to the Wall Street Journal. Hope it was worth it. Article continues, no surgery is free of risk. AAO clinical spokesperson Joanne Giacconi in a statement said at the time, with purely cosmetic surgeries on the eye, it's just not worth the risk when it comes to your good vision. Instead, patients seeking to change the color of their eyes should resort to the far less invasive options such as colored contact lenses, the AAO advises. End of article. All right, believe it or not, I did use my head on this. You wouldn't think you would need to, but I thought, well, it is a show, and I promised to do that. So I sat down and thought about this, and I came up with something. 4 words that I would like to shout from the tallest mountain if I had the ability to do it. Here they are. Stop mutilating your body. Why is it so hard for people to just love who they are? What is the need for constant change? Well, John, you don't understand what it's like. See, you don't understand what it's like to have a funny nose that's not, like the nose on the front of the fashion magazine. I've stood at that checkout counter. I've felt the shame. You don't understand what it's like. Or, it's hard to find a good woman, if you don't have the right kind of belly, you got to get that all sucked out, see, and you got to. Look, I've heard all that 1,000 times, and it's utter nonsense. When I use my head, I see that each of us were created as individuals. The fingerprint is a clue, okay? The fingerprint. And oh, by the way, the retina, speaking of the eye, is like a fingerprint. They scan retinas to identify people. Why is it that we just insist on changing that stuff? We're changing everything now, aren't we? We're changing bust size. We're changing our noses. There are people out there doing stuff to their tongues. I saw a woman with a forked tongue one time. Had her tongue surgically forked because she's in some kind of cult or something. We're changing our gender. Hello. Why is it so hard for people to just love who they are? Why is there a self-loathing? Yes, there's peer pressure out there. All right. And if you're in the fashion industry or a model and, I had to get my nose fixed for my career. Okay. You know what? Fine. I don't really understand that, but that's a reason. There's no reason to change the color of your eyes with a dangerous procedure using dye that was purchased off the street in some third world country, it sounds like, because the FDA has not approved this. And as our friend Jason is quoted in this article, well, but see, if it makes you feel happier, why not? Jason, get some therapy, please. All right. If you're unhappy and you think the source of that unhappiness is the color of your eyes, I would put a lot of money on the square on the table that says that this is not going to fix your happiness, Jason. That's not the source. Okay? Look deeper. Look deeper. Look into yourself as a human being and figure out the real reason why you're unhappy. It's not because your eyes aren't the color of whatever celebrity you admire or whatever color your significant other wants them to be. The whole self-mutilation thing. And look, I'm going to step on some toes here. All right. Because it's Thanksgiving and we like to argue around the table, right? But I say this in love. The proliferation of the tattoos, it's not going to be long before more than half the population has ink somewhere. I don't understand. I don't get it. The markings, the mutilations, the changing, what is it about the human being? I mean, look, some babies are born with birth defects, deformities, right? My wife has a friend who had a little girl and one of her arms didn't develop correctly. And so her hand is attached at the elbow. She doesn't have a forearm and it didn't have a thumb either, it's sad. But this little girl is giggly and smiling and staring up at her little mobile in her crib, and she's perfectly happy with who she is, warts and all. Now they're doing some surgeries on this precious little girl, and they're trying to, get that little hand where it'll be functional for her, and they can do some miraculous things in medicine right now. But my point is this little girl doesn't know that there's anything wrong with her because there isn't. She's beautiful as she is, and she is of value as she is. And if you are someone who doesn't believe that, I hope this Thanksgiving that I can convince you otherwise. All right. And I'm not conceited enough to think I have that kind of power. I'm just a fella. But I'm a fella who loves his fellow man. I love my neighbor. He who created me taught me to do that, commands it. Don't mutilate the great body you were given. It may not be perfect, but guess what? The person that you look at as perfect isn't either. All right? Be you. Be the best you can. And stop giving thousands of dollars to these people that are taking advantage of insecurities that have been fed into you by someone else that's been lying to you. Whether it's a magazine or it's some show on TV or some person you're dating that wants to change you into the perfect mate, that's all nonsense. You are of value just like you are. And why would you risk something like your vision? Have you ever sat back and thought about the miracle of the human eye? The colors, the three dimensions, the things that we can see? It's a miracle. Why would you risk that to change the color of your eyes? I just don't understand. When I use my head, that's it. Stop mutilating your body. Cut it out. There's no reason to do it. So please stop and just be who you are. Just about to wrap up our half hour together so you can go get that turkey stuffed and get ready for your Thanksgiving. I really and genuinely hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And I hope that I hope you don't have any conflict because of stupid politics. For crying out loud, have we not have enough of that this year? Can we just not get together and celebrate the fact that we're alive and we have loved ones to eat turkey with? Or ham, if you're a ham person. We have both at ours because we like everyone to get along. So, oh, you voted for turkey? No problem. Here's some you're a ham voter. Here, use some ham. See? It's easy. Nothing to it. I promised you early in the show before we part ways that I was going to tell you something powerful. And I will confess that Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday of the year. It has been most of my life. Part of that reason is my birthday is usually right around Thanksgiving. So it's kind of my time of the year, if you will. But the main reason why, well, the food, that's part of it too. I'm being honest here. But really, the thing that connects with me personally is something that I think is one of the most powerful things that you can have within you, within your soul, as you walk through life. It's something called gratitude. Gratitude is an immensely powerful thing. I think it's a great practice, and I do this, and I've encouraged many people to do this, and I will do that for you now. I don't know what station of life you're in. You may be extremely wealthy. Things are cruising along just fine, and you really have very few worries in the world. And if that's you, I'm delighted. Bless you for that. You may be on the other end. You may be barely hanging on, either financially or you may suffer from any number of ailments, both physical, emotional, mental, whatever. You may be very upset about politics. You may be genuinely terrified that you're in danger because of the results of elections. Whatever it is, I think it's a good practice to sit down and turn the tables on all those voices in your head and think about how much you have to be grateful for. Oh, this is just a version of that little thing you do where everybody goes around the table and says, I'm thankful for... Yeah, it kind of is. But let me tell you something. There's a very powerful thing that happens when you reflect on such a thing. Gratitude can change your life for the better. I think a lot of people walk around feeling sorry for themselves because of all the bad things in their life. The glass becomes half empty. And I'm not saying that the things that make you think that are not legitimate. We all experience loss. We all experience heartache, troubles, unfairnesses of all different kinds. World's an imperfect place. It can be cruel at times, very cold. But when we use our heads and take control and realize that gratitude is an extremely powerful way to turn the tables on all that, it can really give us a very different outlook on life. And so I would encourage you as we enter into this week where the theme is thankfulness, thanksgiving, focus on gratitude. You won't be sorry. I wish you a very, very happy Thanksgiving. Think of others who might be hungry. Help them out if you can. And I'll see you next week. We'll be talking about other cool stuff and using our heads on the Use Your Head podcast. I'm John McClain. Bye-bye. Happy Thanksgiving.